Thanks, Mike. I'm Jacob. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is September 24th, 2021. I have a sponsor and I do sponsor other men. I have three home groups, all of them in Naples, Florida at the 24-hour club. If you're ever in town, feel free to drop by. It's not actually open 24 hours a day. This thing keeps popping up with prompts. Um, so I could see how you think it was 4 years. I'm quite difficult to hang out with sometimes. But anyway, um, so my story starts the same way all the time. It's my first coherent memory is in the back seat of my mom's car in Southbridge, Massachusetts, where I was born, bawling my eyes out, asking, "Where's my daddy?" I don't know if she gave me a a response, but it wouldn't have mattered. I was three. Good luck consoling a 3-year-old. My dad's one of us. I know I'm not qualified to diagnose other people as alcoholics or addicts, but he was in meetings. So I can safely say that he is definitely one of us. Um, I had my first drink when I was 8 years old. Um, I soon started using other substances shortly after that when I was about 11. And the first drink that I had, I remember the guy made me shotgun it, and I got down as much as I could. And from that first memory, my life was fear. I was full of fear the entire time. And when that first beer went down, I remember thinking to myself, this tastes like absolute shit. And then I felt it like take effect. And I was like, oh, wow. And that fear that I'd known was just like, it was gone. And the last thing I remember from that night was my little brother, two of the kids from this party holding me down on a couch while my little brother jumped on the back of my head like a trampoline. Um, I woke up the next morning and I was like, I want to do that again as much as I possibly can for the rest of my life. The procurement issue was a thing from the very beginning. 8 years old, it was difficult to get to. But every time I drank, I promise you, I drank alcoholically, and it was not for fun. It was to black out. I wanted sweet oblivion all the time. Moving forward quite a bit, when I was 19, I was working at a grocery store called Publix in Gainesville, Florida. And long story short, I don't have a lot of time, so I became homeless when I was 19. I started February 10th, 2007. It's the only tattoo I've got. I don't know how clearly you can see it on this camera, but it's the only tattoo I've currently got. And that's the day I became homeless, by choice, mind you. It was either work a full-time job and pay rent on a house or go adventure, do my thing, whatever the hell I wanted to. And, if you identify as an alcoholic, you can probably identify as wanting to do whatever the hell you want to do. So I've been to every state except for Alaska and Hawaii. I'm looking at the states that you guys are from and trying to decide which one will use the coolest based solely on geography. Um, and then I've been to jail in more states than most Americans have visited. Uh, it was kind of like a vacation to me, like, oh, give me a shower for I got a free shower, free food. I get to put on a little weight, get back out there and go around and do my thing. And yeah, mass. Yeah, right. And it was it was crazy. I was riding freight trains, hitchhiking, riding around on hippie school buses. Um, when I was about 27, um, I got on this hippie school bus that was just traveling around the country from national forest to national forest. And it wasn't the worst thing I ever did in my life, but the only reason it wasn't the worst thing I ever did in my life was because 8 hippies stopped me from doing it. The next morning, I woke up before any of them somehow, probably pure anger and hatred. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, how am I going to manipulate the situation to make them think I'm the victim and they're the bad guy? 8 of them got off the bus all at the same time. And I could tell by the look on their face as they approached me that I wasn't going to win that argument. So plan B with plan B is always violence. Um, and even with my knife, which I wasn't opposed to using, I'm not that type. I wasn't scared of violence at all. The worst thing you could do is kill me, and you'd be doing me a favor. Um, but 8 people, I'm not going to win that fight with my knife. So plan C, without thinking about it, was to blatantly lie, bold-faced lie. I told them I don't remember. I was blackout drunk. I was stumbling over my own feet, but I remember every minute of that night, and I was definitely the bad guy in the situation. And at that point in time, I told them, and more importantly, I told myself, I will never drink again. I can't tell you how many times I've said I'll never drink again, but and a couple of those times maybe I meant it. I don't know. But this time I know with every fiber of my being, everything I had in me, I knew I meant I wasn't going to drink ever again. 5 to 7 days later, I was sitting next to that school bus and I was drunk. I was sitting there and I had like a 12 pack of Yingling and a pint of whiskey. And one of the hippies walked by and he looked at me and he said, "It really bothers me that you said you'd never drink again. And here you are less than a week later, drunk." And I looked at him and I said, "What the fuck are you going to do about it, hippie? You want to lose some damn teeth? There's not 8 of you this time." And he just gave me that look that I'd gotten very accustomed to at that point in my life. He gave me that look of disgust. And at that point in time, I knew there was something wrong with me. And when I talk about step one, the first half of step one, powerlessness over alcohol, when I want to stop doing something or want to start doing something with every fiber of my being, and I can't, there's no other way I can describe that than powerlessness. A few years later, things continued to spiral downhill, and nobody wanted to hang out with me. There is a large traveling / homeless community out there that most people are probably not aware of, and none of them, the worst of the worst, didn't want to hang out with me. And so I was in Sacramento, California, on a bike trail, staring at this decommissioned train bridge, and I was thinking about I was planning on filling my backpack with rocks and tying it off to me so I couldn't get it off with it very easily, and jumping into the Sacramento River and killing myself. And at that point in time, a EMT / firefighter walked by and started talking to me. He saw me crying there, and he started talking to me. I don't know how long he talked to me for, but as he was walking away, he gave me a $20 bill. It's noteworthy to mention that at this point in time, I was 3 or 4 days without any substance in my body at all. So my first instinct when he handed me that $20 bill was to go to the liquor store and buy a fifth of whiskey. I walked over, I got the bottle of whiskey, and I walked outside and I started heading back towards this bridge to kill myself. And I popped the top off of that bottle of whiskey and I turned it up and I drank as much as I possibly could without risk of throwing up. And as the alcohol went down, I felt it change my blood. And it was just like when I was 8 years old. That feeling of fear and anxiety, all those things just disappeared. And I started laughing. And I was like, why do I want to kill myself? Life is phenomenal. I've been homeless at this point in time for 10 and a half years, 11 years. I don't know what it was exactly. I'm the king of the world. I am the almighty. I can do anything I want and nobody can stop me. And I didn't kill myself. When I talk about the second half of step one, unmanageability, that is what I'm referring to. That feeling of hopeless, incomprehensible demoralization. Other people talk about financial status, their wife, their children, the car, the house, and I understand those things to a degree now, but for me, it was the way I felt inside. Alcohol was not my problem. It was my solution that didn't work anymore. I could sit here and I could tell you war stories all night. I could summarize war stories all night, and still have time tomorrow to talk about them. I was homeless for 15 years. I came down to southern Florida with the intention of hiking the Florida Trail to the Penhote Trail to the Appalachian Trail, 6,000 miles combined hiking trail. And I was going to be the first person to do it in recorded history barefoot. and I was gonna get on like Naked and Afraid or some shit and fucking be famous and start my own prison survival camp. And that's not how it worked out. I got about 8 miles into the trail and I ran into a fucking 8-foot alligator, and I got off the trail and I hitchhiked to Naples, which I'd never heard of at the time. And the first person that I ran into was in recovery. She's actually a acquaintance of mine. I wouldn't call her a friend, but we talk every now and then. She didn't tell me anything about recovery. She didn't try to sell me on the program. She just told me a little bit about her story, I guess, and bought me some food and water and left. Um, Within the next few days, I met this guy, Frank, and he was homeless as well. And he ended up talking me into going to the beach with him. And I walked, we rode the bus to the beach. And I woke up at 2 a.m. in the morning. I was awake at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I stood up off this deck and I started puking into the beach sand. And I was like, he asked me if I was okay. The absurdity of such a question. I was like, no, I'm not fucking okay. I'm an alcoholic, and there's nothing I can do to stop drinking by myself. To tell somebody I was an alcoholic wasn't a big deal, but to admit that I couldn't stop to another person, it was a life-changing experience for me. I looked at him and I was like, "You're supposed to be take me to that homeless shelter you talked about and make them help me." He brought me there the next day, and they took one look at me and they were like, "We don't have the facilities to treat you here. You have to go to the hospital." While I was in the hospital, they hooked me up with. I was like, "Whatever, dude. Let's fucking do it." And while I was in the hospital, they hooked me up with a local rehab where I spent another 28 days. It was my first trip to rehab. I don't like the term one trip wonder, but my sponsor has been telling me that I need to mention it more often because it might help somebody realize that they never have to go back out and do it, experiment more. This can be the first. It doesn't have to be in and out, in and out, in and out for years. You can get this time, whether it's your 100th time or your first time. It can work for you just the way it has worked for me. So I got into the program pretty fucking heavy. I was told 90 meetings, 90 days. I was like, I don't know if that's enough for me. I snuck my way into an Al-Anon meeting before any of them realized I didn't belong there. And I heard this really angry old man say, 90 meetings, 90 days. Fuck that. 90 meetings, 900 days. And I was like, this guy's on to something. And I didn't make 900 meetings in my first 90 days, but it was somewhere around 400. You know, the gift of desperation mixed with the gift of unemployment. Those two things were phenomenal for me. I just pretty much lived at the local clubhouse. And then the first meeting I ever went to, it was like there was nothing but it was a bunch of 80-year-olds sitting around in a circle, talking about traffic. And I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, I'm sitting here trying not to kill myself, and you are sitting here telling me about traffic and how I shouldn't shoot a bird to people at the red light. Like, I've never owned a car. Like, and then I found my favorite meeting, the Bring Your Own Literature meeting, which I just came from at tonight. And there were people my age, and I felt like Bill W. and Bill's story, talking about when he says, "I have arrived." His was to the sound of Paper Millions. Mine was to a fellowship that I could actually identify with. And it wasn't very long before one of my home group members submitted my name into the Zach M. Foundation Scholarship, which sends newcomers to FCYPAA, the Florida Conference of Young People's AA. I showed up to FCYPAA, and two of the elder members asked me if I wanted to get involved in the bid. And I was like, why not? I've got nothing else to do. And so I was the special effects guy. I sat behind one of the other guys and hit my vape and blew smoke out. That was my entire job. And it was fucking awesome. It was, I loved it so much. The fellowship saved me. Like, I can't put emphasis on any one of the three legacies of recovery: unity, service, and unity, service, and recovery. I can't put emphasis on any one of the three because without the other two, that one would fall apart. The triangle needs its support. And the So it took me over a year to do my fourth step. And it was a pain in the ass. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And when I got done with it, my sponsor, who's got 23 years and has sponsored countless men, told me that's the most thorough fourth step I've ever seen, ever. Which is a point of pride for me. But I try not to let it go to my head, which is very easy for somebody like me. Lately, got 5 minutes left. Lately, so about a couple of weeks ago, I had I don't know what I could call it other than a identity crisis. My my entire personality was built around being this angry, very dangerous person, and AA kind of took that away from me. And so I'm sitting there and I'm in a meeting. After the meeting, we're celebrating my best friend's birthday. And I went and got to Walmart and got paper plates and cups and sodas. And after the meeting, the paper plates and the silverware are gone. And I just absolutely lost my shit. I overburdened myself. And I called my sponsor afterwards and told him what was going on. I told him, I don't know who the fuck I am. What am I doing? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I know I get the primary purpose, stay sober and help another alcoholic achieve sobriety. What about me? And so currently he and I are taking a deeper dive into steps 6 and 7, which I'm excited about. He's failed to give me the instructions thus far, but I'm hopeful that it will come soon. Which is weird because I've never been the kind of guy who's enthusiastic about receiving instruction from anybody. It's been an incredible journey. I don't know. I still don't know exactly who I am or what I'm doing or why. And the meeting I just left, that was basically the topic was why. I don't know why I made it and why other people don't. And it's my favorite meeting. We pass a ball to each other. The speaker speaks and drops their topic, and then we pass a ball to whoever we want to speak next. And they passed the ball directly to me with no time to think about what I wanted to say. And I quoted my boss, who is also in recovery, and I said, "Why is a management question? At work, I'm in a manager position, which is another weird thing for me to say, but in this game that we call life, which it is a game for me anyway, set to hardcore survival mode. In this game that we call life, I am not the manager, and why is not a question for me to ask. How is a more appropriate question. How am I still here? This isn't a program. I say this all the time. I don't remember who I heard it from the first time, but AA is not a program for people who want it. It is not a program for people who need it. It is a program for people who do it. It is a program of action. And without the action, I'll be dead. If I go back out, I'm pretty sure I will die. And so I was told that I'm supposed to introduce a topic. And I guess what I want the topic to be is the 3 legacies: unity, recovery, and service. So basically that opens up to whatever you want to talk about, really. Like it's an easy out for me. So thank you all for letting me be of service. Yeah, thank you for helping me stay sober one more day. That's all I've got.